The galaxy was calm, moving along in its usual rhythm. Planets spun in their orbits, stars twinkled in the dark, and for the many species across the stars, it was a normal, peaceful day. But that peace shattered when a massive alien fleet suddenly appeared, black as the void and stretching as far as the eye could see. They came from the outer reaches, where few dared to go, and they were known only by whispers, the Sargax fleet. Wherever the Sargax went, terror followed. They left trails of destroyed planets and broken civilizations, conquering without mercy. Entire species had disappeared because of them. This fleet did not just arrive, they invaded, filling the skies of helpless planets with dread. Within hours, news of the invasion spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Planets prepared for the worst, leaders held emergency meetings, and entire cities went into lockdown. Fear took over, spreading faster than the Sargax fleet itself. On a faraway human colony, however, things were different. Located on the planet Tyrannos, humans received the news like everyone else, but their reaction was unusual. While other species shook with fear, humans were strangely calm. They gathered at their main base, listening closely to the reports coming in from every corner of the galaxy. Fearless and determined, Captain Ava Reynolds stood before them. Captain Reynolds was known among her people for her bravery and strong spirit. She was tall, with sharp eyes that could pierce through any challenge. She didn't believe in backing down, and neither did her team. As the images of burning planets and fleeing alien species flashed on the screens, her jaw tightened, but she didn't show a hint of fear. The team of soldiers, engineers, and scientists looked to her, waiting for her words. Many of them had families on Tyrannos, and the thought of the Sargax reaching their home stirred a quiet anger in their hearts. Reynolds could sense it, and she knew exactly what they needed to hear. "Listen up," she began, her voice steady and commanding. "We've all seen what the Sargax can do. They are powerful and they are ruthless. But let me be clear, we are not like the others. We will not run. We will not hide." Her words echoed through the room, stirring something deep within each of them. Humans had always been known for their resilience. They had faced countless challenges on Earth and in space. While others feared the Sargax, humans had something else in their hearts, a fierce determination that wouldn't let them surrender. "We have trained for moments like this," Reynolds continued. "We know how to fight. We know how to protect our people. So let the Sargax come. We will show them exactly what humans are made of." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. The fear that had been trying to creep into their hearts was now replaced by a burning resolve. The soldiers gripped their weapons tighter, the engineers began whispering plans for fortifying the base, and the scientists prepared to put every ounce of their knowledge to use. Reynolds walked over to the large map that displayed the galaxy and the location of the Sargax fleet. They were close, but not yet here. That was an advantage, a little time to prepare. She knew they didn't have the luxury to wait for reinforcements, but she also knew they had something far more valuable, the element of surprise. The Sargax expected fear. They wouldn't be ready for the humans' bold defiance. With the plan set, Reynolds dismissed her team. They dispersed, each with a purpose, ready to defend their home and each other. This was no ordinary enemy, but they were no ordinary defenders. They were humans, and they were prepared to fight against the galaxy's darkest threat. Reynolds knew the battle ahead would be brutal, but she believed in her team, and she believed in humanity's unbreakable spirit. As the stars outside the base twinkled calmly, the humans inside knew they had one goal: to stand strong, no matter what came their way. The Sargax might be ruthless, but humans would show them that they had picked the wrong species to mess with. The Sargax fleet wasted no time. Soon after their arrival in the galaxy, they targeted a small, isolated human outpost on the planet Zaros, a colony known for mining rare minerals. The outpost had a small crew, mostly scientists and miners, with only a few guards to protect it. But that didn't matter to the Sargax. They attacked with the same ruthless force they'd shown in every other invasion, intending to wipe out all life and take over the resources. News of the attack reached Captain Ava Reynolds back on the main colony planet of Tyrannos. Her command center buzzed with activity as messages came in, each more urgent than the last. On the screen in front of her, she could see the outpost on Zaros under fire. Sargax ships circled above, sending beams of energy down to the surface, setting parts of the colony ablaze. "Captain Reynolds," one of her officers called, his voice tense. "The Sargacs have begun their assault on Zaros. They're tearing through our defenses." Reynolds clenched her fists. They had known the Sargacs would strike soon, but she had hoped for a bit more time to prepare. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Get a communication line open with Zaros," she ordered. "I need to speak to whoever's in charge there." The screen flickered, and soon a face appeared. It was Lieutenant Marcus Lee, one of the few soldiers stationed at Zaros. His face was covered in dirt and sweat, and behind him the chaos of battle raged. Explosions echoed in the background, and smoke filled the air. "Captain," Lee said, struggling to keep his voice steady, "we're under heavy fire. We tried to hold them off, but our weapons are no match for theirs. They're too powerful." Reynolds could see the fear in his eyes, but she also saw his determination. "Listen to me, Lieutenant," she said firmly. "You're not alone. Help is on the way. But until then, you need to use everything you've got to hold your ground." Lee nodded, his jaw clenched. "We won't give up, Captain. Not without a fight." The connection cut off as the signal weakened, but Reynolds had seen enough. She turned to her team, a fierce look in her eyes. "Prepare our fighters. We're launching a counterattack." The room burst into action. Soldiers rushed to ready their weapons, pilots sprinted to their ships, and engineers hurried to fine-tune the last bits of defense systems. In minutes, a small fleet of human fighters was ready to take off, led by Captain Reynolds herself. As they approached Zaros, the devastation became clear. The outpost was burning, and Sargac ships flew around it like vultures, firing down without mercy. Reynolds' jaw tightened. She pressed a button on her comm, addressing her team. "Remember, the Sargacs expect us to be afraid. Let's show them what humans do instead." With that, she led the charge. The human fighters zoomed forward, breaking through the Sargacs' lines with speed and precision. They targeted the smaller enemy ships first, picking them off one by one. The Sargacs were taken by surprise, not expecting such a swift and fearless counterattack. Lieutenant Lee, still on the ground at Zaros, watched in awe as the human fighters tore through the sky. He saw Reynolds' ship leading the charge, her skill unmatched as she wove through the enemy fleet, taking out Sargac ships with deadly accuracy. The tide of battle began to shift. For the first time, the Sargac's fleet hesitated. They had faced many species before, but humans were different. They didn't run, didn't surrender. They fought back with everything they had, even when the odds were against them. In the chaos of the attack, Captain Reynolds spotted the lead Sargac's ship. She knew taking it down would weaken the enemy's control over the rest of their forces. With a steely focus, she directed her fighter toward the massive enemy vessel, weaving past its defenses and firing at its weak spots. Her shots hit hard, causing the ship to shudder and lose power. On the ground, Lee and his team saw the Sargac's forces start to retreat, their confidence shaken. Inspired, they fought back even harder, pushing the remaining aliens away from the colony. The Sargacs, shocked by the humans' unexpected strength, finally began to pull back. As the last of the Sargac ships disappeared from Zaros' sky, a cheer erupted from the surviving humans. They had defended their home, and for now they were safe. Lee looked up, watching Captain Reynolds' ship circle above, and felt a deep sense of pride. Humans weren't just survivors, they were fighters. Back on her ship, Reynolds took a deep breath, her eyes set with determination. This was only the beginning, she knew. The Sargacs would return, but so would the humans. And next time, they'd be even more prepared. The news of the humans' victory at the Zaros outpost spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. The small colony had stood strong against the fearsome Sargac's fleet, and this sparked something deep within many species. Fear was slowly replaced by hope as they learned that humans had fought back fiercely, refusing to be crushed under the weight of despair. On Tyrannos, Captain Ava Reynolds stood in the command center, surrounded by her team. The room buzzed with excitement and relief, but she could see a bigger picture forming in her mind. They had won one battle, but the Sargacs were still a looming threat. To face them again, the humans needed allies. "Gather the leaders of the nearby colonies," Reynolds commanded, her voice firm and clear. "We need to discuss our next steps. If we want to fight the Sargacs for good, we need to join forces." Within hours, representatives from various colonies arrived at the command center. Some were from mining planets, others from research outposts, and a few were even diplomats from distant worlds. Each brought their unique skills and resources to the table, but most shared the same worry: the Sargacs would return, and they could not face them alone. As they gathered around a large holographic table, Reynolds addressed the group. "Thank you all for coming. Our victory at Zaros shows that we can fight back against the Sargacs, but we cannot do it alone. If we want to ensure our survival, we must form an alliance." Murmurs of agreement filled the room, but some were skeptical. A tall, reptilian alien named Zorak, representing the Zergan species, crossed his arms. "But how do we know humans won't turn on us once the Sargacs are defeated? You have your own interests to protect." Reynolds met Zorak's gaze, unflinching. "I understand your concerns, but I assure you, our fight is against the Sargacs, not against you. We need each other if we want to survive. Alone, we will be picked off one by one. Together, we stand a chance." Another voice piped up, this time from a small, furry alien named Lila, who represented a tech-focused colony. "We have advanced weaponry, but we lack proper training. Can your soldiers teach our fighters how to battle the Sargacs?" "Absolutely," Reynolds replied, her enthusiasm rising. "We can share our tactics and train your fighters. With your advanced technology and our experience, we can create a strong force." As discussions continued, the leaders began to see the value in forming an alliance. They realized that each species had something unique to offer. The Zergans had unmatched strength and resilience, Lila's colony had incredible technology, and the humans brought their strategic thinking and combat experience. Together, they could create an unstoppable force. By the end of the meeting, they forged a pact. The newly formed alliance agreed to share resources, training, and intelligence. Reynolds felt a surge of hope. This was the beginning of something powerful. Over the next few weeks, the alliance worked tirelessly. Humans trained the fighters from the Zergan and Lila's colony in combat techniques and tactics. They ran drills, simulated battles, and practiced coordination. Everyone learned from one another, exchanging ideas and strategies. The alliance grew stronger, and a sense of unity filled the air. One evening, as the sun set over Tyrannos, Reynolds gathered her team and the allied leaders for a celebration. They stood together in the command center where laughter and music filled the room. For the first time, they could see a future where they faced the Sargacs as one, not as separate species. As the night went on, Reynolds raised her glass. "To our new alliance! May we stand together against the darkness and fight for our survival!" Everyone cheered, raising their glasses in solidarity. In that moment, they were not just different species, they were allies, bound together by a shared purpose. But as they celebrated, a dark shadow loomed on the horizon. Unknown to them, the Sargacs fleet was regrouping, plotting their next move. They would not take the humans' defiance lightly. The alliance had ignited a spark of hope, but the real test was yet to come. Reynolds looked around at her friends and allies, knowing that they had made a crucial step in their fight for survival. She could feel the determination in the air, and it strengthened her resolve. Together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Sargacs might have thought they could crush humanity, but now they would face an alliance unlike any other in the galaxy. The days of preparation flew by, and soon the moment of truth arrived. The newly formed alliance of humans, Zergans, and Lila's tech specialists was ready to face the Sargacs. Intelligence reports indicated that the enemy fleet was on the move and they were heading straight for Tyrannos. Captain Ava Reynolds gathered her allies in the command center, the air thick with tension and anticipation. "Listen up," Reynolds began, her voice steady but firm. "The Sargacs are coming and they won't stop until they destroy us. We've trained hard and now we need to show them what we can do. Remember our tactics. Trust one another. Together we are stronger." Around the table, each leader nodded, their faces determined. Zorak, the Zergan representative, cracked his knuckles and grinned. "Let them come. We will show them the true strength of our alliance." As the clock ticked down to battle, the command center hummed with activity. Soldiers strapped on their gear, technicians fine-tuned weapons, and pilots boarded their ships. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a mix of fear and excitement. Everyone knew what was at stake. Captain Reynolds took her position at the front, overseeing the launch of their fleet. Outside the massive windows, she could see the ships of their alliance preparing for battle, gleaming fighters and powerful vessels ready to defend their home. With a deep breath, she stepped up to the communications panel. "This is Captain Ava Reynolds," she announced, her voice echoing through the ships. "Prepare for launch! Today we fight for our freedom. Today we fight for our lives. The crowd roared in approval, and soon the fighters shot into the sky, piercing the atmosphere. Reynolds led the charge, her heart pounding in rhythm with the thrum of engines. As they soared into the void, the dark shape of the Sargax fleet appeared on the horizon, an intimidating sight of massive ships looming against the stars. "Formation Delta!" Reynolds commanded as they approached the enemy. The Allied ships formed a tight line, each vessel ready to defend its neighbor. The Sargax ships opened fire, beams of energy racing towards them. But the Alliance was prepared. They dodged and weaved, their coordinated movements a dance of chaos and precision. Suddenly, the first shots rang out. Human fighters blasted through the enemy ranks, their lasers striking true. Zergans charged forward, their ships absorbing hits with remarkable resilience. Lila's tech specialists unleashed a barrage of missiles targeting the Sargax vessels with advanced tracking systems. But the Sargax fought back fiercely. Their ships were massive and heavily armed. One by one, they returned fire, energy beams slicing through the darkness and hitting their targets. Reynolds watched as one of her fighters was caught in the crossfire. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, leaving nothing but debris. "Stay focused," she shouted into her comms. "We can't lose hope. Keep pushing forward!" The battle raged on, and the sky lit up with explosions. Reynolds weaved her ship through the chaos, targeting enemy vessels with expert precision. The voices of her allies echoed in her ear, urging each other on. Every soldier felt the weight of the fight, not just for themselves, but for their homes and their people. Just then, a massive Sargax warship loomed ahead, its size dwarfing everything around it. Reynolds knew they had to take it down. "Zorak, lead your forces to flank the warship," she commanded. "Lila, provide cover with your tech. We need to disable their weapons." Zorak's ship surged forward, flanked by a group of Zergan fighters. They charged at the warship, drawing its fire while Lila's technicians targeted its weapon systems. Missiles shot through the air, striking the warship's hull, but it was not enough. The Sargax ship's energy shields flickered but held strong. Reynolds narrowed her eyes, focused on the control panel. "We need a distraction," she said to her crew. "I'll lead a strike on their power core." "Cover me!" With a determined heart, Reynolds maneuvered her ship towards the warship's vulnerable rear, dodging blasts as she went. Her allies provided cover, firing at the Sargax ships that tried to intercept her. It was a risky move, but it was the only way to turn the tide. As she approached the power core, her heart raced. The core glowed ominously, surrounded by a web of energy beams. With a deep breath, she activated her ship's shields and surged forward, firing her weapons at the core. The impact was powerful. The energy beams collapsed around her, and the warship began to tremble. A loud explosion echoed through the battlefield as the warship erupted in a fiery blaze, taking several enemy ships with it. Cheers erupted from her comms. "We did it!" a voice exclaimed. But Reynolds knew the battle wasn't over yet. The Sargax fleet was still formidable, and the fight was far from over. As the remaining ships regrouped, she felt a surge of determination. They would keep fighting together until the last enemy ship was defeated. This was their moment, and they would not back down. The battle raged on, but the tide had begun to turn in favor of the Alliance. The explosion of the massive Sargax warship ignited hope among the fighters. Captain Ava Reynolds felt a surge of energy as cheers filled her comms. Allies were pushing forward, and the Sargax fleet began to falter. As Reynolds maneuvered her ship through the debris, she saw Zorak's Zergan fighters charging toward another enemy vessel, their powerful ships crashing into the Sargax lines. Meanwhile, Lila's tech specialists fired precise missile strikes, causing havoc among the remaining enemy ships. The teamwork of the Alliance was proving effective, and the Sargax were not prepared for such a united front. "Keep pushing! We can't let up now!" Reynolds shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She watched as another enemy ship disintegrated in a flash of light. Victory felt within reach, but she knew that complacency could lead to disaster. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared in her cockpit. A large Sargax ship was targeting her position. Reynolds barely had time to react. She executed a sharp turn, her heart racing as energy beams whizzed past her ship. "Lila, I need covering fire!" she shouted into her comms. "On it!" came Lila's quick response. Within seconds, a series of missiles flew past Reynolds, striking the Sargax ship and forcing it to break its attack. Reynolds took a deep breath, her focus sharp. They could win this, As the battle continued, Reynolds received a message from Zorak. "We're pushing the Sargacs back!" But they're regrouping for a final assault. "We need to end this now. Let's go for their command ship," Reynolds replied. "If we can take out their leadership, the rest of the fleet will fall apart." The Alliance fighters rallied around Reynolds. They formed a tight formation and pushed forward toward the command ship, which loomed ominously in the distance. Reynolds could see the panic spreading among the Sargacs crew as they realized their fate was at stake. With their combined forces, they launched a coordinated attack. Missiles flew, lasers lit up the sky, and ships darted around the command ship, executing maneuvers that left the Sargacs scrambling. The air was thick with tension, and every second felt like an eternity. "Now, everyone, focus on the command ship," Reynolds commanded. "Let's finish this!" The Alliance fighters targeted the command ship's weak points. Zorak led the charge, his Zergan fighters drawing enemy fire and keeping the Sargacs' defenses busy. Meanwhile, Lila's tech teams hacked into the command ship's systems, disabling some of its defenses. "Cover me!" Reynolds shouted as she approached the command ship. She fired her weapons with precision, striking the ship's hull. Explosions erupted as they breached the defenses. The command ship began to shudder, and alarms blared across its surface. The Sargacs forces fought back, but they were losing their grip. Reynolds felt the rush of victory surging through her as she led the final attack. "Push forward! We can do this!" she cried. With one final blast, Reynolds aimed for the command ship's power core. "This is for all of us!" she shouted, unleashing everything she had. The core exploded in a blinding light, and the command ship was engulfed in flames. Cheers erupted over the comms as the Sargacs fleet began to break apart, their ships retreating in chaos. The Alliance fighters had achieved the impossible. They had taken down the heart of the Sargacs fleet. As the smoke cleared, Reynolds took a moment to breathe. They had won. The Alliance had proven that together they could stand against the darkness that threatened their worlds. Hope blossomed in their hearts. Back on Tyrannos, celebrations erupted. The streets were filled with people from all species, cheering and celebrating their hard-won victory. Captain Reynolds stood alongside Zorak and Lila, watching as the citizens rejoiced. "We did it," Lila said, her eyes bright with excitement. Zorak nodded, a proud smile on his face. "This victory is just the beginning. We will stand together against any who threaten us." Reynolds felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. They had formed a bond that went beyond species. In this moment, they were united, not just as allies, but as friends. As the sun set over the horizon, Reynolds looked up at the stars, knowing that this victory had sparked a new hope for the galaxy. They would face new challenges, but now they would do it together. The Alliance had formed, and with it, a promise of protection and strength for all. The battle was over, but their journey was just beginning. Together they would build a future where fear would no longer rule their lives. A future filled with hope, unity, and the courage to stand against any threat that dared to arise.